Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all once again in this lecture series on the course Hydraulics and Hydraulic Machines. In the previous class, we have seen a few concepts related to how do we apply various conservation equations in case of open channel flow. This we have discussed in the last class. We have seen the conservation equation of mass conservation, momentum conservation and energy conservation in case of open channel flow. Today we talk about the concept of specific energy. This is very much important in case of open channel flow. Concept of specific energy. Okay. You are already familiar with the different types of energies. When we are talking about if you look at a typical open channel flow, okay, this is the channel bed and water surface profile will be like this. There will also be energy gradient line, okay. You will also be showing some datum head, some datum. This is channel bed, this is water surface line, and this is energy gradient line. So a typical open channel flow will be like this. It will be flowing like this, and the flow will be mainly due to gravity. Okay. Corresponding to this, we also talk about different types of energies. You will be talking about the potential energy or gravity energy, potential head, pressure head or pressure energy, then kinetic head or kinetic energy. Similarly, total head or total energy. Okay. Total energy, this H can be written as Z plus Y plus B bar square by 2G in case of open channel flow. In pipe flow, things will be different. Okay. In open channel flow, generally it happens the bed slope is not very large, and most of the time when you are solving the real problem, you will find something like 1 vertical is to 1000 horizontal. So this distance will be 1000 meters, or the drop in this channel bed that may be 1 meter, 2 meter like that. So again this may be due to 500 meter or it may be 2000 meter. So horizontal distance is too much. It is not the horizontal bed, the bed is not completely horizontal, but it is having some slope, but this slope is very small. So many times it is also good we assume the channel bed as the data. Okay, suppose I assume channel bed as datum. So what will happen? Now this is the datum. So when I will be measuring the things, I will be measuring with respect to this line. Okay. So in that way, the total energy, or I will be writing H is equal to Z plus Y plus B bar square by 2G. So when I am considering this as the channel bed, so this will be equal to 0. So how do we define the specific energy? We can simply say, considering channel bed as the datum, whatever will be the total energy, that is called specific energy. And the symbol that we use for specific energy is E. Okay, this is the way of defining specific energy, or E. You are assuming the channel bed as the datum. Okay, how it will be helpful in analyzing the problem, that we see. Okay, so E can be written as Y. I should start writing from left side. E is equal to Y plus B bar square by 2Z. Okay, this is the flow depth. Again, this B bar can also be replaced by, or this term may be Q square by 2Z A square, because Q is equal to B bar into area. Okay, this is the average velocity for any cross section. Okay, so this is equal to Y plus Q square by 2Z A square. Okay, suppose this is channel bed, this is the flow depth. Okay, this is Y. This is the flow depth at any section, and suppose I plot this is Y and this is E. Suppose I plot Y versus E, how this specific energy is varying with respect to Y, that we need to plot. So you can see two portions over here. This is the function E is directly proportional to Y, and suppose I need to plot for this Y. So how I can plot this for Y? Suppose this is equal to 0. Suppose this is equal to 0. So for a given value of Q, okay, this sentence is very important. I am saying Q is constant for some constant value of Q. Okay, so if I have to draw this Y equal to Y, I can simply draw this line. Okay, this will be something for E equal to Y. This Q is constant, so this Q is not varying. This is area. Again, this area is function of Y, and most of the time you will find, or always it will be A is some function of Y, and Y to the power 2, Y square maybe will be there in that function. Generally it will happen with A. So this is function of, or this will be directly proportional to some function of Y. So as if you look at this portion, this thing, how E will be varying with respect to this function. So when Y is tending to 0, E will be tending to infinity. Okay, if Y is equal to 0, then there will be some value, it is tending to infinity. Okay, when this Y is tending to infinity, Y is very large, then E will be tending to 0. So you will get some curve like this. Okay, so we are moving towards the infinity over here. We are moving towards the infinity over here. If you take the summation of these two, so for Y is equal to 0, what will happen? This will be 0 and this will be tending to infinity. So at Y equal to 0, it will be going towards infinity. Okay, and for Y is very large, or it is tending to, I am writing this tending to infinity, then also E will also tends to become infinity. So E versus Y plot will be something like this. Okay, this is the E versus Y plot, and this will be the plot for Q square by 2Z A square. Okay, in this way you can show the things. So this is the plot for, if you look the characteristic of this plot, what will happen? Suppose I talk about any value of specific energy. This is some value of specific energy. I just say this is some value E1 at any section 1. So corresponding to this value of specific energy, and I should also write, when you are drawing this plot for, or you are drawing the graph of E versus Y. So this will be for some particular value of Q. If you are changing Q, so this plot will be varied. Okay, this is some value of Q. Suppose I have some another value of Q, so plot may be something like that. For any value of Q, you can also check here because E is also directly proportional to Q. So if this is Q1, this is Q2, and this is Q3. So in this case, you can simply say this plot will be something like that. Okay. If Q is varying, E will also be the plot will also be shifting in the right direction. Okay. Now please see. So for any value of E, you are finding out, or you are getting two different flow depths. This is some flow depth Y1, and this is another flow depth Y2. Okay. So for any value of E, two flow depths are there. Okay, Y1 and Y2. Okay, these flow depths are called alternate depths. Okay, Y1 and Y2 are alternate depths. Okay. Okay. So for any value of E, you will be getting two alternate depths. Okay. You can also see one thing in this plot. Okay. You will get some minimum value of specific energy. This is E min, and this will be some value of Y. So corresponding to E min for a given value of Q, you will get the flow depth, and this flow depth is called critical flow. Okay. So how you can define the critical flow? You can define this critical flow in two ways. One is critical flow. Okay. The way of defining the critical flow. Critical flow is that flow for given value of, for given Q. Critical flow is the flow for which E is minimum. Okay, this is the way of defining critical flow. I can also define the same thing in another way. Suppose Q is not constant and I am making E constant. Okay, for certain value of E. So this is one definition of critical flow. Another definition you can say, for given E, for given value of specific energy, critical flow is the flow for which Q is maximum. Okay. We see what is actually happening. You can use these two sentences. Okay, for defining the critical flow. For the critical flow condition, one very interesting thing will happen, and how to find out the critical flow condition. Removing all this. Okay. Suppose E is equal to Y plus Q square by 2Z A square. Okay. So I am saying Q is constant, right? So Q is constant. If I just do, this is also the value, the definition of minimum, because for minimum value of E, you are saying this should be equal to 0. Okay. In this way, you can easily define the YC. So you can simply write dE by dy. This will be 1 plus q square by 2g. This is something constant. Okay. If you derivate this a square, I think you can do it in better way. I will be writing a to the power minus 3 and multiplied by minus 2. Okay, it will be something like that. And finally you will get some statement like q square t and multiplied by dA by dy, because a is function of y. Okay. Again, in the last class we had seen this will be replaced by t, and finally this statement will be, so this is also called the critical flow condition. Critical flow condition. I have obtained this by using the first definition. For constant value of q, E should be minimum. Again, you can also derive the same thing. I am not deriving over here. You can do by your own. You can just simply write q as a function of E. Okay. So you need to maximize by q. dq by dy should be equal to 0. When you will be doing this, you will again get the same value. This is the maximization and this is minimization. Okay. This is called critical flow condition. If you do some work in this equation, you will also get one very interesting thing. You are already familiar with the Froude number. Okay. In one of the class we had also discussed that, or in fluid mechanics course also you may have studied about that. G into L. This is the way of defining Froude number. Okay. B bar is mean velocity. L is something characteristic length. Okay. As you had seen in case of Reynolds number, so that was something like rho B bar L divided by mu. So this is mu is viscosity, or B bar is mean velocity, L is some characteristic length. Okay. Similarly here also this is characteristic length, and in that class we had also seen this is replaced by A by T. I think you will be keeping all this in your mind. So finally this Fr is, suppose I am doing Fr square, so this will be B bar square divided by G A by T. Is it? Or it should be something else? Okay. This B bar square can also be replaced by, you need to do some manipulation, G A Q by T. Okay. So again, it is nothing but it is written the same expression over here. You can simply say for critical flow condition, for YC is the flow depth, if YC is the flow depth, in that condition Fr will be equal to 1. This is also way of defining Fr. Or sorry, this is also the way of defining critical flow condition. So for critical flow condition, you will get Q square T divided by GAQ is equal to 1, and Froude number should be 1. Okay. You had seen two different flow depths over here. Sorry, if I'm just drawing Y versus E curve over here, this is the this will be the line at 45 degree, and you will get the curve something like this. This is the critical flow condition. So this flow depth will be critical flow depth, and corresponding to this critical flow depth, whatever will be the velocity, you also don't need to be confused over the when you are analyzing for the open channel flow. Actually, Q is function of B bar into cross sectional area. Okay. So when the flow is taking place for certain value of q, if this is the flow depth, okay, for this value of q, again another flow depth may also be there. Suppose velocity is very large, so a smaller flow depth may also be there. So q is function of both y, this a is function of y, so q is function of y as well as b bar. Okay, this is called critical flow depth, and we had seen over this critical flow depth, for this condition Fr will be equal to 1. Okay, Fr is b bar divided by g into, you can also write this is hydraulic depth, you can also write this thing, or g a by t, because hydraulic depth is not very much used, so you can simply write g a by t for Froude number. Okay, so it is directly proportional to b bar. For this reason, the flow depth, if you are working in this zone, or this is the flow depth, so for if yc is the critical flow depth, so if y is less than yc, okay, for any actually I should also discuss by just looking the things. This is the flow depth, okay, this is the flow depth y. Okay, so for certain value of q, you will get one value of yc. You will not get many different values of yc. For some value of q, you will get one value of yc. If flow depth is more than yc, then it is called subcritical flow. Okay, and in that case Froude number will be less than 1. Okay, and if y is greater than yc, this is called supercritical flow. So whatever two alternate depths we were discussing about, these two are the alternate depths corresponding to any. So one will be in subcritical region and another will be in supercritical region. Okay, this is for subcritical region, this is for supercritical region, and for supercritical this Fr will be greater than 1. If Froude number is more than 1, it will come in the category of supercritical flow. Okay, so this was about the specific energy. We also need to look for some real problems related to this concept of specific energy. Actually, they are also, these problems are also in your syllabus. Okay, so when the flow is taking place, how you will be analyzing the things, that we see over here. We will be discussing here two different problems. One is the problem related to hum, and another is problem related to some contraction. Okay. Suppose this is the open channel flow, so it is not necessary always you are having a very smooth channel bed. So this is the channel bed. At some place this may also be there, some hum, some rise may also be present in the channel bed, or in some place it is not necessary, at some point some depression may also be there. So these things may be there. Okay, we are not taking here the case of, you also study for the design of weirs. Weirs are few meters high, and they may also be having some larger height over here, but we are just taking the example of hump, just a very small rise in the channel bed or some very small depression in the channel bed. In case of contraction, we will be discussing the things. Suppose if you look at the plan view of any river or any canal, okay, so suppose this is the condition, okay, here this is the width of the river, and at this point this is the width, this is B1, this is B2. So how the things will happen over here? Suppose water is flowing through any hump, or water is flowing through any contraction. Expansion may also be there. Suppose this is the channel width here, and this is the channel width here. So when there is expansion or there is contraction, how the things will be getting changed, that we discuss here, and we will also be using the concept of specific energy, and how we will be analyzing that we see. First we see for the case of hump. If any hump is present in the channel bed, how you will analyze it? Okay. This is some hump, okay, I'm drawing this like this, and it is having some height. Suppose it is delta z, okay. You may not be able to see this delta z because this is written very small. This is delta z, okay. This is the height of hump. Delta z is rise in the channel or height of hump, because height of hump, okay. Depression may also be there, but here we are taking the case of hump, okay. At any upstream section, if you are looking for the flow, okay, so at any upstream section, this is the flow depth. This is the flow depth. Suppose this is section 1, okay, and this flow depth is y1. So this is at upstream section, okay. In the downstream, this is the hump, and suppose this is section 2, okay. So we need to find out over here, when this water surface profile is this, so whether there will be no change in the flow, it will be moving like that, or there will be rise in the flow depth, or there will be fall in the flow depth. Whether this is correct or this is correct or this is correct, we need to find out. This is the real problem. We have to find out how this flow depth will be getting changed, and how much is this value of y2, whether this is y2 or this is y2 or this is y2, we need to find out. We will be finding out, okay. Suppose I simply talk about the total energy between these two sections. So at this section, suppose I say what is the total energy, I am considering this is as the data. If channel bed is the data, so y1 plus q1, okay. Again we will be looking for the same value of q, whatever is the value of q, it is not getting changed. You also see here, in most of the time when we are talking about in this course, because especially varied flow is not in your course, when we take the case of especially varied flow, in that case especially varied flow, then we will be going with the variation of q. Otherwise always we will be saying q is not getting changed, so q is constant. So I will be writing q square by 2g, okay. I should also make it simple, because if you are considering the trapezoidal section or triangular section, things will be very complex. I'm just writing here, I'm taking the case of rectangular channel section is here. So width is B. Width in both the section it will be same, because it is the rise in the hump, but width of this section is same. This is the flow depth, so this is y1. Okay, this is over here. So I can also write B square into y1 square. This will be the total energy. Okay, at this point, or you can also say this is E1, specific energy at section 1. And suppose I have to write the total energy at section 2. So the flow, because there is no flow across this is something like some portion of the channel bed, because this is rise. So water is not flowing across this. So we will be calculating the y2 from above of this hump. So total energy at this point will be y2 plus q square divided by 2g b square y2 square plus this delta z will also be there. We are also taking one assumption over here. We have taken one assumption, that is rectangular cross section is there. Another assumption, neglect the frictional losses. Okay, because many frictional losses or formation of eddies may also be there, because this is just obstruction over here. So neglect the frictional or other losses. So whatever will be the total energy over here, same energy will also be there. So finally what I can write over here, I can simply write E2 is nothing but E1 minus delta Z. Okay, I was doing this just for writing. E2, the specific energy at this section will be specific energy at this section minus this delta Z. Okay, so finally what is the objective? I have to find out how will be the flow depth. Okay, whether it will rise or it will be, there will be no change or there will be fall in the flow depth. I have to find out that. Okay, now I will be doing some analysis over here. Okay, corresponding to this I am drawing the things. Okay, this is something like that. So suppose at the upstream section this is y1. So corresponding to this y1, suppose this is the, or this is the, this is y1. Okay, so corresponding to this y1, this will be E1. Okay, if this is the value of flow depth, so it will be having this much of specific energy. I will also say to you, for any value of q, suppose certain value of q is there, so specific energy cannot be less than the minimum value of specific energy. Okay, specific energy cannot be minimum. Whatever, if some value of discharge is there, so specific energy, the minimum, this is the specific value of minimum value of specific energy, it cannot be less than that. Okay, whatever is the flow depth, the specific energy will be more than that. If this is the delta Z, so suppose I have to find out how much is E2, so I can also find out this E1 minus delta Z. So if this difference is delta Z, so this will be the corresponding value of y2, and this is y2. So this is the very simple way to find out whether it will rise or it will fall. So this is the y1, this is the value of e1. You can find out what, so how I can write the algorithm. First step is you know the value of y1. So by using y1 you can find out corresponding specific energy at section 1. Second step is just write E2 is equal to E1 minus delta Z. Okay, you have got the value of E2. Third step that could be, once you know the value of E2, you can also find out Y2 from this E2. Suppose you have E is equal to y plus q square by 2z a square. Okay, so you will get y to the power q over here. So this will be 3-degree equation in y square will be there, so it will be y cube, something like that. So this will be 3-degree equation in y. So there will be 3 roots of this equation. One root may be invalid, one root may also be showing for this flow depth, and another root will be showing for this supercritical flow depth. This is the subcritical flow depth and this is supercritical flow depth. Okay. So once you have the value of E2, you can find out what should be the correct value of flow depth over this. You need to solve that 3-degree equation that you can very easily solve by using the scientific calculator that you will be having. Okay. So this is the way you can easily find out the value. So it is showing it will be falling because this was the y1, this is y2. So there will be fall in the flow depth. So it will be going something like that. Okay. But in few places you may also having some problems. Suppose when delta z is, suppose this is the delta z, and suppose I make some increment in this value of delta z is much larger value. So this E2 will be shifting something like that. It will be shifting towards like that. Because E2 for any value of Q, whatever is the value of Q, it is Q for this section, it is Q for this section. Okay. So for this value of Q, E cannot be less than this value. Suppose delta Z is this much. What will happen in that case? So whether when you finding out this E2, you need to check over here, check whether E2 is more than or equal to E main or not. Okay, you need to check over here if E2 is more than E main or not, because if you are finding out this is the value of E2, so this will not be existing. So what will happen in that case? If you are finding out E2 is more than E main or it is equal to E main, then it is okay. If E2 is less than E main, what will happen in that case? You will be saying E2 will be equal to E main, because specific energy at any cross section cannot be less than E main. And when this is E main, so value of Y2 will be YC and critical flow depth will be at that point. Later on we will also discuss something. Suppose when you are talking about the broad-crested bear, there will be something like that, and height of the broad-crested bear will be larger. It may be few meters. Okay. So in that case, always you will find when this is the flow, so always critical flow will be existing over the broad-crested bear. Okay. We will see in one of the class over the broad-crested bear always critical flow, because height of the hump, it is also similar to the hump. Hump is very small rise, but in case of bear, the height is very large. So that's why if height is large, always critical flow will be so Y2 will be YC. Once y2 will be shifted over here, whatever is there. So this will also affect the critical, this will also affect the upstream flow depth. How it will be affected? Suppose you have find out this is E2. So you will say no, this is not E2. E2 will be equal to E min, and corresponding to this will be Y2. That is equal to critical flow depth. Okay. If this is Y2, so upstream flow depth will also be modified. E1 is modified. Okay. This is modified. Okay. So if this is Y2 is equal to YC and this is E2, so now this is delta Z if, so this will be something like the value of E1. After that you will be saying E1 will be E2 or E min plus delta Z. So delta Z will also be some summation of E2 plus delta Z will be something like that, and somewhere here, and this will be the value of Y1 dash, and this is E1, and corresponding to this find out Y1 dash. So when the height of hump is very large or it is more than some value, then you will say the upstream flow depth will be affected, but the flow depth over here will be critical flow in that case. Okay. So so we were having few questions over here in the examination, how the things can be asked over here. One question is simple. When we were discussing over here, this was the case of subcritical flow. Okay, subcritical flow means it is above the critical flow region. Another case could also be, it is not easy to draw the things over here again. This is Y, this is E. Okay, suppose this is the Y1. Okay, so what will happen in that case? This is E1. You will say this is delta Z. So this is E2. Okay, so in that case there is rise. So again you will be saying in case of rise of the hump, or height of the rise due to hump is there, if subcritical flow is there, this water surface profile will be falling. If supercritical flow is there, this is the flow depth, it will be rising. So one question may be asked just simply, if subcritical flow is there, you will simply say water will rise, water will fall, and in case of supercritical flow, water will rise. Okay, so this is simple question. Another question may also be there. Suppose somebody asks what should be the minimum, what should be the maximum height of hump for which the upstream flow is not affected. Whatever is the upstream flow depth, it remains same. It is not getting affected. So again you need to find out, you need to consider the in the maximum case it will be happening. The YC will be occurring over here. So corresponding to that you can find out. If you will be having the problem, we can discuss this later on, but you can solve many problems related to this hump. Okay. Next we talk about the channel contraction. Okay. If channel contraction occurs in the open channel flow, then how you will be analyzing the things that we see. What will happen in case of channel contraction? We had seen. So this is second case, channel contraction or expansion. Just okay, how things will happen in case of channel contraction, that we see. this is the plan of any channel. This is B1 and this is V2. Okay, and the flow will be something like this. This is the flow depth. Okay, so this is the section 2, this is section 1. Okay, so again we need to find out when water is flowing through this. So whether this will fall, there will be no change, or there will be rise in the flow depth, we need to find out. This is section 1, this is Y1, and how much will be this Y2? We need to find out whether it will fall, water will fall, or water will rise. We need to check for that. Okay, in this case, if you look at these two sections, so the channel bed is at the there is no hump over here. So whatever will be the specific energy over this section, if we neglect the losses, because water is flowing from this section to that section, again there will be losses, and always you will say in real problem E2 will be less than E1 because water is falling, so losses will be occurring. Okay, but we will say if we neglect the losses, E2 will be equal to E1. Okay, in the previous example, in case of hump, we have taken the example of rectangular section. So again we will be saying this is the rectangular section over here. So this is B2 and this is B1. B1 is more than B2. Okay, the formula will be something like y plus q square upon 2g b square y square. Okay, in this one thing is also happening. In the previous formula, b was not getting changed, so it was constant, but in this b is also getting changed. So if I just put over here, this is E is equal to y plus 1 by 2g, and just write q by b square of that and y square, and you will also see q by b1 will be less than q by b2 because b1 is more than b2. Okay, so if you plot the y versus e curve for these two sections, you will get two different curves. Okay, just drawing those curves over here. If I am drawing the curves over here, this is y and this is e. Okay, okay, this is a curve for q by b1. Okay, this will be a smaller value. This is the curve for q by b1. For q by b2, the curve will be one question may also be asked. You need to check for that. When the value of discharge is increasing, this point of minima or critical flow depth, this will be shifted in upward and right direction. You can check for that. Okay, I am not doing the analysis for that. Okay, this is less than that, so it will be shifted like that. Okay, y1 was the flow depth at the upstream section. Okay, this is y1, this was the flow depth. So you need to find out at section 2, this is section 1, and flow will be something like that. You don't know at this time whether it is rising or it is falling. So this is y1. Okay, this is y2. So when you are analyzing the section, analyzing the things at section 2, this is for second section plot, and this is for For different sections you will be having different plots, because channel width is getting changed, so that's why this value is getting changed. It is not only the function of y, it is also the function of v. So this is y1. You can also find out whatever is y1, you can also find out the corresponding value of e1. Okay, it is very simple. And again you will say e2 is equal to e1. Okay, so again this will also be the point for e2. So corresponding to this is the point in curve 2, and this will be the value of y2. So it is very simple. If you write the algorithm, you know the value of y1, you will get the value of e1, e2 will be equal to e1. Okay, third is from this e2 you can find out, for this you will be using curve 1, and for this you will be using curve 2, because for different curves are there, for different sections different curves will be obtained. So from this y2 you can very easily find out the y2. Same thing will also happen in case of supercritical flow. Suppose this is the flow depth. Okay, this is the flow. So this is y1, this will be e1. Again this will also be the same value of e2. So you can find out the corresponding value of y2. You can say in this way, if channel contraction is there, so y1, whatever is the value of y1, again it will be falling if this is the subcritical flow. In case of supercritical flow, it will be rising. You can get the idea of these two things. Okay, again I will be saying the same problem. If it is e1 and this is e2 and this is the case, it's okay. One thing may also happen. Suppose I am taking again in another way, making the same plot. If this is the condition, this is y, this is e. One condition may also be there. This is for section 1 and this is for section 2. For different sections, this is showing for q by v1, this is showing for q by v2. Okay, and suppose this is the value of y1, this is the y1, or suppose this is not y1, y1 is somewhere here. Okay, so this will be the value of e1. You will again say e2 will be equal to e1. Okay, so from the value of y1 you have obtained the value of e1, and e2 will be e1. When you are saying e2 is equal to e1, so there is no point in this curve for this value of e2. This is the value of e2 less than e2 minimum. This is e2 minimum, so it cannot exist. In that case you will say, when it is this value is not existing, e2 will be equal to e2 min and y2 will be equal to yc. Critical flow depth will occur at that point. Okay, so this will be the value of e2 and this will be y2, and again the value of y1 will be modified like that. This will be modified as. So in that, how will be the algorithm? From first step is, you know the value of y1, you can find out e1. This you will be using curve 1. Okay, from then you will say e2 is equal to e1. Now you need to check e2 is greater than equal to e2 min. Okay, you will be checking this thing. Once you have checked this, if it is this is the condition, it's okay. If E2 is less than E2 min, so again you will say this flow will not exist and E2 will be equal to E2 min. Okay, and this is equal to E2 min. So Y2 will be equal to YC2 at section 2, whatever will be the critical flow depth, you will be saying that, and this is Y2, and E1 will be modified and that will be equal to E2, whatever is the modified value of E2 plus E2, and corresponding to this E2 you will be finding out Y1 dash. Okay. So this is the way you can solve the problem for contraction. Again you can have similar type of problem over here when channel contraction is there and the flow is subcritical. Whether the water will rise or fall, you need to give the answer. If supercritical flow is there, water will rise or fall, you can see that. Okay. Again, in case of expansion also, if channel expansion is there, whether water will rise or fall, you can give the answer of that. And again, the same question may also be there. What should be the maximum amount of channel contraction? Means B1 minus B2. How much this should be there, for which the upstream flow depth is not getting affected. This may also you need to answer in few problems. So these things can also happen. One typical problem may also happen here. Suppose in some problem you have both the things. Suppose this is section 1 and this is section 2, and rise in the channel bed is also there. At the same time channel contraction is also there. This is section 2, this is section 1. How you will be solving the problem? That I think you can also solve that by using the same concept over here. Whatever we have used for this, if you consider these two at a time, then you can also find out the things over here. And same question may also be there if both the things are happening, water will rise or fall, that you need to check. Okay, in case of subcritical flow and supercritical flow, and in that the one problem may also be there. Again you can also have different answer for that, because that will also be the optimization problem. You have both the variables, delta Z is also there, and this is B2, this is B1. So delta B is equal to B1 minus B2. So these two variables may be there. The question may be asked something like that: how much is the maximum amount of rise of height of the hum, and how much is the maximum amount of the contraction in the channel width, and so that the upstream flow is not getting affected. So the problem may also be that, but answer of those type of question may be very large number of answers may be there. So that is also behind your syllabus. You don't need to go in the detail of that, but the problem may be there considering both the things. Okay, today we will be stopping here. In the next class we will be talking about the hydraulically efficient or channel section, or most economical channel section. We will be talking about that, or uniform flow we will be looking for that. Today we were talking about the specific energy. Okay, so whatever we have discussed in the class, first we have seen what is specific energy and how do we use the concept of specific energy for defining the critical flow, supercritical flow, and subcritical flow. And by using all this, we have also obtained the expressions for different conditions of channel transitions. These are also called channel transitions. Okay. So we have considered two different things, hum as well as contraction. You can also go the both of these two conditions at a time, or depressions may also be there, or expansion may also be there. You can see the things for that. Today we stop here. Okay, thank you.